Hi YouTube, Engineer Boy 100 here, and I have another video for you today on replacing the strut mount bearings, the bump stops, and the dust covers. I'm not going to replace the mount bracket because I think mine are okay. I popped off the little tops and I looked at them, and I think those are okay. They're like $200 a piece, so if they're not damaged, I don't want to replace them, and I don't track the car or put any stress on the car to that extent, so I don't really need to worry about those. Now, so here's the bearings. This is what they look like. These are the bearings. This is what I think the problem is. I think my bearings are seized up or damaged, and this little center part, it turns, like so. It turns. So this is the bearing. These are the bump stops for this vehicle. This is a 2003 Porsche 996 Turbo. So these are typical for, I think these are using the Boxsters as well, or the Carreras. So there's nothing too special about those. These are the dust covers. Let me take one out so you can actually see what it looks like. This stuff is tough. I'm going to be able to rip it. I don't want to look like a wimp on camera. But these are really good quality. I've seen some that are pretty cheap, but these are really good, strong dust covers. I can't wait to get these on. So I'm gonna jack up the car with a little movie magic, take the tires off, wheels off, and start tearing the suspension apart and take those struts out so I can replace the bearings, the bump stops, and the dust covers. These are the part numbers and the prices. Now, if you have a hard time finding these prices, it's because I got my parts from Foreign Parts Specialties in Sacramento. Now, don't let the fact that they're in Sacramento deter you if you want to use them, because they ship worldwide. Okay, that's Foreign Parts Specialties, FPS. They're online. You can call them up and order some parts. They're great guys. I like them. I like the owner. He's a great guy, Ray. So without further ado, I'm going to start ripping into it. And I got to go upstairs, change clothes, get into my grubbies, and change out these bearings so I can go driving this weekend. All right, so stay tuned. Sorry, got to cut you off. Bye. All right, a couple of tips. Before you start, you might want to put some circles around the current locations of your strut mount bolts. I put the green circles around here. That'll either keep your suspension pretty close to being aligned when you put it back together, or at least if you go in for an alignment, it won't be way off. That's one. The second tip is, once you start taking the suspension apart, and I'll try to remind you and mention it again when I'm down there, there is a cammed bolt. It is a cammed washer flange connected to one of the bolts that it adjusts. I think it adjusts the, I don't know if it's the toe in or the camber, I don't remember, but you have to pay attention. Once you see that off-centered, like it's like a washer attached to the bolt, mark how it's turned, mark how far it is rotated, and mark onto the bolt flange and onto the frame so that you can realign those marks when you put it back on. It has a nut and a bolt on it, so you can align it and then tighten the nut down. Okay, and that's the best I can do. All right, so without further ado, let's jack this car up and destroy the suspension. Okay, with a bit of movie magic, we got the car up on the jacks. Of course, we always use wheel chucks and jack stands before we get under the car. First thing we're going to do here is take off the brake calipers, both sides, and take the suspension loose. All of the control arms up front, take those loose, and then I'll take the mounts off of the top of the strut and remove the strut. Then I'll compress the spring, and I'll take the top part off. We'll compress that and we'll take the top off, and change the, look at that, huh? Let's change the, it's all destroyed. Yeah. Change the bump stop, change the bearing, and put it all back together. Shouldn't take too long. Now you may notice here that I have a dedicated bungee. Little bungees, I bought a whole bunch of these for holding my calipers so they'll get damaged. Now when you do that, initially I'm going to hang the caliper from the spring here, but then when I take the strut out, the spring is going to be coming away from the car and the caliper is going to be staying with the car. So you need to transfer that. Be mindful that you need to transfer that, the hook, the upper hook of this, to the frame so that the calipers and the bungee stay with the car once the spring comes out with the strut. Okay, it's time to get to work. Alright, so I'm going to take that end link off first. You have to hold it with a 5mm Allen, and then the bolt, the nut on the end is 17mm. So 17mm box end wrench and a 5mm Allen to hold the center so you can take that nut off. So that's what I'm doing right now. Holding and removing. Alright, I'll take you guys up underneath before I get too far and show you what I've done. Kind of looks like a mess, but it's not that bad. All I did was take the end link loose and just draped it down. And then these control arms here, the coffin, and then the control arm here. All I did was take loose these 3 bolts here and then swing this plate out of the way to release this arm here. And then I just took 1 bolt loose here, right here, to release this. And that's all that's been done. So now the next thing that I'm going to do, I already took the nut off the top. This is the steering arm. I'm going to take that loose. Then I'll take this, here's the drive shaft. Drive shaft, right here, the drive shaft. Whoa, whoa, I'm zooming. Sorry about that, my finger went on the zoom. Take the drive shaft loose by taking this nut off here. And a lot of people, oh my god, that nut's so hard. But I'll tell you what I got. I use my Ingersoll Rand electric or cordless impact wrench, and it takes it off like nothing. It turns a big old problem into no issue, no problem. And then I'm going to release this nut here. You probably just wait and do that until I have it. No, I can't. I have to take it loose. I'll take that loose. And then I can take the 3 bolts on top loose and take this entire cartridge out. It'll slide up. This will slide up out of here. Once this whole thing goes down, this can slide out. I can take it out and change out the bearings. And then I'll show you how I do all that on the bench. 2 other quick tips. One, you want to take the plastic undercoverage off, which just has some little clips and 4 little 10mm plastic nuts, so don't strip them. They're black plastic, they're not metal. Let me show you the clips. I'm going to show you this first, then I'll show you the clips. Here's my speed sensors, and before I unplug them, you notice I mark them so I can get them in the right spot in the right orientation. I don't even think it matters about the orientation, but I'm not sure. So I mark them, and then I pull it out. If you look inside, they can easily be switched around. They can easily be switched around. So some things have a go, no go. You can't get it wrong. Well, this one, if you look inside here, voila, it's the same. So you can get it wrong if it can be, but I think it doesn't matter which way it goes. But we're not going to find out. If I marked mine, I'm going to put them back the way and the color matched. So everything's the way it was. Let's take that loose so I don't want to stress anything as I lower the carriage. Alright, so now these clips over here. Let's go over here real quick. Sorry. These clips. It's a minor detail, but these little clips hold this plastic undercover on, and these little black nuts here. There's 4 of these, 2 in the back, 2 in the front. You might not see the ones in the back. because it slides on. See the little clips? It just slides on, but there's also two nuts that go over some studs. Now these clips, the way you get these off without destroying them, if you look very carefully, all you do is put your screwdriver underneath. Let me see if I can do it with one hand. You put your screwdriver underneath. Oh man, I just can't. I need one more set of hands. Under this little tab here. Okay, you put it under that little tab and you pull up and then boing, they'll pop out. You know, you gotta be patient and work them. Anyway, so I just want to make sure if anybody's gonna try this, that as they come on these minor little hiccups, that's how you get those off. Okay, so I got the hub carriage off. I just want you guys to get a quick look at what I did to get it off. All I did was this coffin control arm, as I showed you earlier, and this control arm here. And then all I did was two other things. I took the, this is the steering arm. Okay, this controls your steering. And I loosened the nut up. Okay, and then I put it back on. And I pounded this off with the nut on there to protect the threads. You don't want to bugger the threads up. You won't get that nut back on. You have to replace this arm. Okay, so then this is a 32 millimeter nut on the end of the drive shaft. I use Ingersoll Rand to get that off effortlessly. Everybody didn't have that, but it's worth the investment. This guy right here takes it off with no problem. This is the 20 volt model. This guy is worth every penny. He saved me in all kinds of jobs, so I highly recommend that. One other really small tip. The brake disc is held on by these screws. Two screws here. I need to get somebody did this and didn't replace one of them. But anyway, I digress. My point is, they're very soft and they're easy to strip. The head part where the Phillips goes, not the threads, but it's easy to strip this because they're kind of tight and they get dirt in there and they don't want to come out. I highly recommend manual impact. I use this to get those loose without destroying them. This has it's a spiral cammed internal surface, so that when you pound on this, it turns up that tip, that screwdriver tip, and also when you hit it, you put it into the screw like that, and you hit on it, it pushes it into the screw better so it doesn't slip. And there's a bunch of different heads that come on there, and this is a really good brand. It was expensive, but this one actually the tip comes off and you can put all kinds of sockets on there too, so it's really handy. So I always plug this. I've plugged it in other videos, but it's such an incredibly handy tool. I just wanted to make mention of that. So once I took all those things loose, all I had to do was this part right here, just wiggle it and just slide this down off of the shock absorber itself. Just slide it down. You might want to clean it up a bit if it's dirty, but it slides off pretty easy. And then everything's freed up. This is just hanging free by the 3 bolts on top, 3 nuts on top. Take those loose, take it off, and then I'll change everything off on the bench, set the camera up on a tripod, and you guys can watch. Alright, we're on the bench now. I got the little spring compressors on here, and they're very loose. I mean, they're almost hand tight. I maybe turned them like 2 or 3 times with this afterwards. I mean, these springs are not, I mean, look, I can depress them by hand. So there's no danger of them popping loose. I know somebody, oh, your rings aren't all the way in. It's fine, there's no danger, okay? I know safety first, but there's no danger. So now what we have to do is take this nut loose. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can do that on the bench here on camera, because I think it should be pretty straightforward. I think it's a 21 millimeter. Almost lost my socket there. Let's see. There we go. Let's see if we can get that loose with a 21 millimeter. Be right back. Hold on. All right. So yes, the answer is yes. It is a 21 millimeter. Use a 21 millimeters, the size of this nut. Now, if you don't have an impact like me, or if my impact doesn't work, I'll have to use a 21 millimeter wrench along with something to hold the center. This center is an odd size, Allen. It is 7 millimeter. That is goofy. 7 millimeter is what you'll have to use to hold it. If I can turn around so you can see a little bit better. 7 millimeter. Hopefully I don't need to use this because I have the trusty Ingersoll Rand 20 volt, and this should just snatch it off like nothing. Let's see. And it didn't, it just spun. So now we have to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to have to use a wrench and a 7 millimeter Allen. So here we go. And counter turn. Sure I got that. See if you guys can see what I'm doing. There you go. You have to hold it with this 7 millimeter and then turn it with this 21 and cue music, and it's coming off quite nicely. Another thing what I should have done is probably put a little bit of penetrant oil, or at least WD-40 or something in the threads, so this would come off easier, but it's fine. And you can do it this way too. Or you can do both at the same time to go even faster. There we go. Now it's loosening out. So I didn't need any oil. I just was worried about stripping the threads or something. But it's fine. There we go. Take off that nut. And voila. So now I'm glad I'm taking the video too so that I can see what order everything comes off. Of course, this washer goes here first. Then the mount flange, like so. Look at that, it looks to be in good shape. Yeah, it's fine. Yay! So it's a little bit, but it's not bad. So I'm going to reuse it. So that goes next. Then we have this little metal cup with the bearing in it. So here's the bearing that we're going to be replacing. And bearings, see how does that come out of it? Probably need to use a little screwdriver or something. Pry this out, so I'm just going to put the screwdriver in and just turn it gently. There we go. So here's a ring, which goes like this, and then this, and that's kind of not very reassuring because this bearing is not seized, which is why I took this all apart. This bearing is a little dirty, but it's not by any means seized up. It turns quite freely. So now I'm at a loss of why my spring was popping. So I'm going to have to look at, maybe I need something, I don't know. And this little gasket is in good shape. Everything's fine. So now I got to do some more research and figure out what's going on. My end links, some people tell me, oh, check your end links, check your end links. So my end links are, I've replaced those. They're in good shape. They're adjustable end links, so they're fine. So I don't need to take this off. And they gave me the wrong, yeah, I can just return them, I guess. They gave me the wrong dust boot, of course. Of course. And that goes that way. My dust boot is in good shape too, actually. So fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just they gave me the wrong size. So I got to go back and return that. But I'm at a loss. I don't know why this was popping because everything looks to be in good shape. So that's not a good thing. So I'm going to have to resolve that before I go any further. Okay, so I guess it turns out this is not the wrong dust cover just because they're a different size. This one just gives you a little bit better coverage and it collapses down quite nicely, just like this one. So I'm going to use it. So here's the order of installation. Here's the order of installation. I put the little bump stop on already. You can see here. Put the bump stop on so you don't just watch me struggle because it's on this cylinder here, for the shaft here, pretty tight. So I just put that on in advance. Alright, so then you have a washer here that looks like it's concave on one side. Well, the concave side goes down towards the base of the strut. Goes on just, and it's a concave shape here. There's a concave shape here that it goes on like that, so that these two concave surfaces mate. All right, so that goes on like that. Then you get one washer facing down. Is it facing down or facing up? I think it was facing down. I think this washer goes like this. Okay. The second thing you want to do though is put on your dust boot, your dust cover. So that goes on over your little boot. Then you get your first washer. Okay. Then there's this little piece that houses the bearing. Okay. And you want the bearing with the spin side up. So you can see the little plastic part. You want this side up when you insert it into here. So you insert it like this. Okay, and it snaps in, stays in there. Then you take this piece and you put it in this rubber grommet bushing washer, whatever you want to call this rubber. And of course they fit together quite nicely. Okay, like so. Then this part goes on the actual, the bearing goes up against the actual mount bracket itself, just like so. Okay. Goes right up against that, and this is how it spins and turns when it's on the car. Alright, then this goes right on here up against that washer, and this is sandwiched between the two washers. You want to make sure your spring lines up with this. No, it has a little cupping on the spring. Then the final washer goes in, convex side, convex, concave. Alright, goes on like so. And then your nut to hold everything. And that's about it. You tighten everything down and you reinstall your strut. Make sure everything's lined up. You have a little piece here on the bottom. This spring is supposed to line up with this little cupped part. So you want to make sure everything is lined up correctly. Okay. You don't want to just kind of throw it together. You want everything lined up correctly. Let me see this. Move it around a little bit. So just tighten it on down. And then I can tighten it up with my wrench. And then installation is reverse of removal. Because I'm about to get this job done so you guys don't get to see anymore. Sorry. The end. Alright, thanks for watching. Okay guys, I had to go and figure out exactly what was causing that spring to pop. So I called H&R Spring. And I talked to one of their technicians, and we talked on the phone for about 15 minutes, and we went through the whole assembly, what I found when I took it apart, what I was experiencing, and we figured out what the problem was. Here it comes. The problem was whoever installed these lowering springs initially failed to install the bump stops. The bump stops are 3 1/4 inches long. Okay, 3 1/4 inches. This is how much is supposed to stop this spring from deflecting. So I was experiencing the spring pop because the spring was hyper compressing, meaning it was compressing so far that the angle was making the spring pop out of its seat. And then when the wheel returned, it popped back into its seat, and that's what I was hearing. So if you have missing or very, very worn out bump stops, and you're experiencing some spring noise, that could be part of or one of the reasons why you're experiencing that. So now that I know why and how it was happening, I'm more confident to put everything together and not think that I'm just ignoring the problem. So I'm going to let you guys watch me put it back together. I was just kidding. I wasn't going to keep you out of the reassembly process. But I did want to really emphasize that point because I had no clue that would even cause that problem. So good on R&H. And I don't know if they want me to mention the guy's name or not that helped me, so I won't do that. But I will say that I got some really good customer service from H&R Springs when I called. So this is on a 2003 996 Turbo, and the part number for these front springs is 29385VA. And you can see it on here. I don't know if you can see it. Put the these are the springs that are on the front. The lowering springs are on the front of this vehicle. Okay. So now this one's all assembled and ready to go. I'm going to put it back in, and then I'll start on the other side. Okay, so to illustrate what happens when a spring compresses too much or hyper compresses when it doesn't have the bump stop, I've compressed this spring more than it would probably normally compress here with a spring compressor. And as you can see here, the way the bearing is supposed to seat with this mount bracket, there's a space in here. So this is what happens when I go over a bump, you know, like an undulation or a speed bump or any kind of a bump in the road that's a little bit bigger than normal. You're gonna get hyper compression. And if there's nothing in here to stop it, like 3.5 inches or 3.25 inches worth of bump stop missing, you're gonna compress all the way down until this thing unseats. Then when the spring returns, it's gonna snap back into place when it's fully extended. And that's what I was hearing. Okay, so I got the strut on. I just lined up the 3 bolts up top with those 3 green circles that I put in earlier to mark the locations. And then I attached the end link back here, and that's it. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the carriage here up, and I'll put the drive shaft through, and then I'm going to slide it up, slide this part here, up on the strut. Okay, up on the shock absorber portion of the strut. And then I just have to do the coffin and the other control arm. That's it. Underneath. And then it will be just the steering arm, and then reattach 2 bolts to reattach the brake caliper. And that's it. You put your tire back on. You put your disc back on, you put your tire back on, and you're done. So that's just the sequence, so you can kind of keep track of what I'm doing. So if it's hard to really kind of see everything. Man, doesn't this look nice though? This is from the last job. A nice clean bearing in there. That was a lot of work. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to take this 32 millimeter nut off the drive shaft. Slide it through. Wiggle around, get those splines to go in. Put the nut back on just to hold it, leave it loose, and slide this carriage up this strut and put the bolt in there to hold it. So there's the sequence. Here we go. Drive shaft first. Do the drive shaft. Get it going. So, and look at that. Comes right through. Turn it a little bit to get the splines to go in. Just push. There it is. And you just put the nut all the way on as far as you can. We'll tighten that up later with our Ingersoll rand. Cordless impact. Alright, now, I think I should have gone, I did it in the wrong order. Huh? Did I do it in the wrong order? think I did, didn't I? Did I put this? Yeah, I did in the wrong order. Dagnabbit. So you gotta put, sheesh. So I gotta put the, yeah, I gotta put this strut on first. Then the drive shaft. Oh man. Okay. Now I gotta show this. I could edit it out and pretend like I never make a mistake. We could do that. Huh? So, oh boy, what is this, like a combination deal? Put this on like so. Put this on. Might get in the way. Start going up. Then put this. Okay, you gotta kind of do it at the same time. Alright. So you gotta do it at the same time. Coordinate your angles and everything. And slide up. And you got the drive shaft coming through here. Come on, buddy. Get an angle. So you gotta kind of coordinate your movements a little bit. And then you gotta line this up with this little slit in here. Eventually this has to turn so that can continue to go up. Once you get the drive shaft to go in the hole. So you gotta angle that universal joint. Kind of at an angle. And somebody else know an easier way to do this? I think maybe I probably should have put this on this before I put it in. That's what I should have done. Oh man, but that's how it came out. But I might have to take those loose. It's probably going to be a quicker, easier way than trying to fight it. So let me see. I might be able to get it to go up high enough to line up this drive shaft. And not have to take that. So I cheated. I got it to go in. This is in the slit, but that might be the hard way. So I don't think I would recommend people to do it that way, the way I just did it, because it takes some coordination and some strength, and which may not be necessary to use all that strength if you do it in the right sequence. But I'm getting this to go in, so trying to get the splines to line up on this. I need to get a little bit more height. So this had to go all the way up to here. So I might end up putting some kind of penetrant oil in there again to get it. I don't want this coming back off. It's not out enough yet. So anyway, here's a video of what not to do in terms of the sequence. What not to do. Don't do it this way. So you're gonna have. Oh, okay. All right, you're not gonna watch me struggle anymore. That's it. When the next thing you see is gonna be done. So all I did was tap the bottom of where the brakes mount on the carriage here, on the hub. I just tapped it until it lined up with the hole, and then it was easy to line up my drive shaft and get my 32 millimeter nut on there. So now I'm gonna do my coffin. I think I can show you. I can get a better angle and show you. You can actually watch that one. You know, I got a little bit better light under here because it was ridiculous. You couldn't see anything. So now I'm going to connect up the back side of the coffin controller in here. So it just goes right in here, and I have a bolt. And actually, I think we have to put this in first too at the same time because it will allow movement. So what I did was I took out these three, this, and this,
And these things, if you do these, oh man, I forget exactly what it is, but this is like 17, this is like 16, this is like 6. They're all different. I think this is 15, 17, and 14 or something like that. I forget exactly. I don't feel like redoing it. Figure out what exactly it is, but they're all different sizes, a bunch of different sizes. Like, what the heck? I can see maybe 2, 3. It's ridiculous. And this is the actual mount bolt for this control arm here. So take this out, and I'll leave that one in and just swing this out of the way. You can pull this up like so, and put it in. Put the plate on, of course. And put this in first. Get it to line up. Put it in loose, and do the other two. Now these two are the same size. This is one size, and this is one size. Put these in loosely. And just kind of leave them there. So this can kind of move a little bit still when you put in the back portion of the controller. So the nut goes from front to back, because otherwise you're not going to be, the bolt goes from front, but you're not going to be able to fit it in from the back side. This has to go in. There's a little bit of space here. Or in my line, maybe it goes from back to front. Yeah, back to front. Wiggle it in a little bit. That's why you want to leave everything loose, so you can wiggle this and get it to line up with the holes. There you go. And then put your nut on. Just make sure you tighten everything up. I like to put everything on loose first and then go back through everything. Tighten it up. And that's basically it. Now, do the control arm and the steering arm here. Steering knuckle. Put it in. And then I'm going to go back through, tighten everything up, and then I'll put the brake caliper back on. I have a little spreader. I'll show you my little spreader. When I move the camera around this side to do the caliper. And this just goes up. Like so. That. It's tapered. This can move, everything can move. And this takes a Torx in the center of this ball joint here to hold it while you tighten the nut. So if you have difficulty tightening it, just look at the tip, and there's a Torx space there. All right. Do the caliper. All right, we're on the other side now. Got all the bolts tightened up underneath it that I'm put in loose, and of course the control arm. And I went ahead and tightened up my 32mm nut on my dry shaft so I wouldn't forget. Now I'm going to do the caliper here. I have a little spreader here, very handy little tool. I'll take it out now so you can see it. I love it. It works great. It makes it very easy to put back on the disc. So the disc is going to go on next, and then the caliper. So here's my little spreader tool. Isn't that cute? I mean, yeah, you can use a screwdriver or whatever, but this here really makes it handy and easy to open those pads up just enough to make it easy to slide it over that disc. So I use a spreader. The older I get, the more tools I need to make the jobs easier. So I'm going to go get the disc now. There's 2 little set screws that hold the disc in place. I replaced those with stainless steel because they get buggered up and they're kind of soft. Even though I used a little impact, manual impact to take them out and it didn't damage them, I just replaced them so that the next time I take it off or change the disc, they're in good shape and I don't worry about anything getting stripped out or stuck. So let me go get the disc, put that on, and we'll put the caliper on. Alright, got the disc here. You can see the disc. And here's my screws. I'm sure you can't see them. These little screws. And I'm going to, I changed these out. As you can see, here's the original screw. It's not in that bad a shape. But I got some new stainless steel ones that I think are going to work a lot better. So what I do is I put a little bit of this gray gasket sealer in almost every thread on the car whenever I do a job, except for head bolts. I never ever put this gasket sealer on the threads of head bolts because it's critically important that torque is correct. But on things like this, that I don't want these little screws to loosen up or vibrate out, I put the sealer on there and it works great. So, you have to line these little holes up. There's 2 of them. And you line them up correctly. And then you get your little screw, put it in. I'm going to cheat with a screwdriver. Help me line it up here. Get one end loose, let it hold it, and I can wiggle it around still to get the other one in. It has 2. You have a nice hold on that disc. And then you don't have to go crazy tight. You want to get it snug, but it doesn't have to be crazy tight because it's not going to loosen up or back out because you have the gasket sealer on the threads, and it keeps the threads from corroding in there and getting stuck. So it's not real tight, but it's secure and it'll stay in there. And so I do that all the time. It works great for me. So next, without further ado, I'm actually going to put a little bit of gasket sealer in the threads that hold on the bolts that hold on my calipers too, because I don't want these backing out. And they say you're not supposed to reuse these, so what happened was the first time I did the brakes, I bought new bolts. So these are new. So when I take those again, I know these have only had 1 cycle of torquing, so they'll be fine. I can reuse them 1 time. They'll be fine. They're probably fine anyway, but I just wanted to make sure they weren't damaged in some other way. So I bought new ones the first time. But now that I know that these are my bolts, and I know their history, I'm going to reuse them. I know they're fine. And they haven't experienced, track temperatures, because I do not track this car. I will never track this car. But I don't want it getting smacked up. So, get this on here. Once I get this on there, I can release my little, I think it's on too. Release my bungee cord so it doesn't, I'm not 100% sure it's on. It's not seating completely. There. And then you just tighten it down. Alright, the speed sensor cables in the back. It's best done from underneath. And that's where I am right now. I want to give you a view of what that looks like. And I can't hold this light and point, but it's these right here. This is actually a bolt, and then there's a nut right here. You want to do those from underneath, because if you don't, you're gonna strip that thing out. You can't get it aligned. Alright, so I'll show you what everything looks like all done, and that should do it. Okay, all done. Got the caliper on, struts assembled and reinstalled. I'll show you the top side in a minute. And that's what it looks like reinstalled. Everything's tightened up. All the control arms tightened up underneath. And I used the circles that I painted on in green on the top side to realign my locations for the mount bolts. And now we can do the right side. Thank you once again for watching.